Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Teen Talk Central. In this week's episode, we're talking all about how to make the most out of high school with a small friend group. If this is something that you're interested or something you just want to learn more about, then definitely continue listening to this week's episode. Hey guys, it's Mia. Welcome back to another episode. I'm so glad you guys are here today. Last week, we talked all about how to make friends in college, and I know that only kind of applies to people who are going to college or maybe just in general trying to make new friends. But in this week's episode, I wanted to take a little twist on it, and I wanted to talk about how to make the most of your high school experience, whether you have 3 months left, 6 months, a year, 2 years left, and really how to maximize the people you surround yourself with, and also talking a little bit again about my experience. So yeah, I'm really excited, and let's get started. So first, kind of background on me. I have, we've talked about I've had friendship breakups. I've moved from quite a lot of friend groups, and right now I wouldn't even say I'm in a friend group. I'm just kind of solo living my life, and I choose to surround myself with certain people, but I don't always know if that is the right place I should be. And that is something that's been kind of hard for me. And obviously in the media, there's this really huge portrayal or kind of this idea that when you go to high school, you're going to meet your best friends and everyone there is going to be perfect and amazing. And that's just not true. That's reality. I'm sorry to tell you that. I have had a lot of trouble finding people who I can relate to or people I can have real conversations with. And I think social media also really amplifies this idea. Like, I see a lot of people like posting on social media, like when they're hanging out with their friends or whatever, certain people I talk to tell me plans that they have with their friends that, that after school or the next day, and, I'm not invited, and that's okay. And like, that's something I've kind of just had to learn to deal with, and something I've just kind of learned I've had to persevere through, because I don't have that life, and not everybody likes me, and that is also another harsh truth that I've had to come to realize as I've gotten older. And I think the reality is that most people don't actually like everyone that they hang out with. And I think, obviously on social media, a bunch of people are going to parties together, doing all this, doing that, but when you hear people talking crap about their own friends, quote unquote, it really shows that there's really only probably max like 3 to 4 people who are really, really close friends, and the rest are just kind of filler friends. And I think high school often makes it seem like everyone has this huge friend group, but for a lot of people, that's not actually the case. And I think the reason is that everyone's so different. It's really hard to find 15 people that are exactly like you, that's going to get along with you perfectly. And there's just personality differences and, financial differences and preferences for deeper friendships over a lot of acquaintances where you don't get to know them as much, but you have a lot of them to hang out with. Personally, for me, I really valued getting to know the friends I do know and like spending quality time with them over the amount of friends I have. Now, sometimes it sucks because if my 4 friends that I want to hang out with aren't free, then I'm stuck doing something on my own on the weekends. Like, today's Saturday and there's like a St. Patrick's Day parade for my area, and like I have no one to go with because I don't have a lot of friends that I'm close enough to go out with. But that is also okay, because I've learned that I don't need to go out and do that just because everyone else is doing it. But if I really wanted to do it, I could just go by myself. And that's another thing I also want to talk about maybe in a future episode, is just being an only child and what that's been like. I know whenever I tell people I'm an only child, they're like, wow, that's such a sad life. Like, you have no friends, like you don't know how to work with people. But I don't think that's true. And I think that's also really helped me in my development with friendships and like learning when it's okay to let go. And there's also this, I think, really important idea that the quality of friendship often matters more than the quantity. And I think that's something so many people always forget. They think that having 15 friends is better than having one best friend. And I have 2 best friends, and I've been friends with them since I was literally like 6 or 7 months old. That was not a joke intended. Anyways, but yeah, I only have 2 really best friends, and then I have maybe 1 or 2 girls I would stay in touch with after I graduate, maybe 4 if I really stretch it. But that's just the reality, and I want to be open and honest with you guys that, like, obviously I try to promote being like a really good person, and like, that my life is all dandy, but it's really not, and there's a lot of struggles, and like, I'm not saying I'm a terrible person, but like, obviously everybody has their flaws, and you have to be able to accept that, which is another kind of reason why I think high school friendships can be hard, and it's hard to have a lot of friends, is that when you start to open up and like you get to know people, you find out about people's flaws, and if you're not the type of person who's open to accepting people's flaws and like kind of understanding people, then the friendship takes a downturn because you're not able to fully get to know the person for who they are. You just rather see them as like what they look like or how much money they have or that kind of stuff. I think there's also this idea that it's kind of bad to be in a small friend group because you don't get to do as much stuff or you don't get to go out, but I don't think that's really the case. Like with me and my two best friends, like it's so nice because we have deeper trust and connection with each other, and there's less drama because there's less of us, and there's also just more independence, and like we don't have to self-rely on each other to kind of have fun and do activities. And I think close relationships strengthen emotional support and stability because you get to know the other person better, so you don't have to rely on as many people to make you happy. And I think that's something that's really important, and another thing I've also learned from being an only child. Also, I think in a sense it's easier for me because I'm an only child, maybe, to be able to kind of like have my alone time but also hang out with my friends. So again, maybe next week's episode will be all about how to like make friends, or like how to live as an only child and the perks of that and the disadvantages of that. So now that I've yapped for 6 minutes, let's talk about how to make the most out of this high school, outside of just friend groups. I think one thing is you have to just focus on your personal hobbies and interests and goals. Clubs, academic interests, creative hobbies, sports, volunteering, literally whatever you want to do, just do it. And another thing I also want to talk about is probably confidence. And you just have to be confident in yourself. And without confidence, unfortunately, people can see that you don't have confidence. It's pretty blatantly obvious. If you're kind of insecure and you're always shallow and you're always in the corner, you have to be out. And I think high school can be meaningful through experiences, not just the social circle that you put yourself in. I've had so many great experiences just because I put myself out there. So kind of another thing to talk about is handling the moments of loneliness at school. During lunch, and maybe homecoming, prom, social events, there's this idea of social comparison. And just remember that everyone experiences loneliness at some time in their life, and avoiding comparing real life to curated social media moments is so important, because everyone has downsides in their life. Everyone has negatives that they experience. They just don't obviously post it on social media, and you just have to remember that your experience will just help make you a better person. And being alone sometimes does not mean being isolated. If you choose to be alone, you just choose to better yourself and work on yourself rather than relying on other people to make you better. So in order to build confidence in a small circle, you just have to invest in the friendships that you do have, and also being open to new connections without forcing them. And the confidence will just grow, usually from the self-trust that's created through that friendship. Also, in general, just looking ahead, high school is truly one chapter of your life, and college and adulthood will hopefully bring you so much new experiences and expand your social circle naturally. And it's going to be a big change, and high school shouldn't be the only chapter of your life where you you're gonna make so many more friends and meet so many more great people once you leave high school. And friendships also evolve over time, so don't rush into it, and don't kind of be disappointed if you don't find that perfect group right in high school, because I didn't, and I have honestly felt like I've thrived, especially this past year. And you really don't need a huge group to have a meaningful high school experience. A small circle can create such a huge impact. And not everyone's high school story is loud and super crowded. Some of the strongest ones that I've heard of are quiet and intentional and really focused on themselves, and also on curating really, really good relationships instead of just a couple random ones. So I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. I really like talking about it, and obviously it's something I can really relate to, and I hope that I was able to help someone out there just kind of realize that friends and, having a lot of friends is not everything. And next week, I'm going to be talking about what it's like to be an only child and lessons I've learned from that you may not be able to, learn as much if you have siblings. And yeah, I love you guys so much. Thank you guys for listening to another amazing episode of Teen Talk Central, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.